Can somebody put what that
Oh,
SYSMB stand for? I don't know what that stands for. Y'all know what that stands for? I don't know if I'm saying the letters right, but it's SYSMB or something like that.
if black men have all of these options, domestic or international, why are all of the complaints? Wouldn't they not just choose an option and move forward?
So I think the complaints are, I think when it comes to men and women, and I'll even just, consolidate it to black men and women, I think we genuinely want to be together, but we are both in the same space of where we don't know how to get over this hump of where we can actually be in a space where we can be cohesive and be symbiotic, where we can work together. And I think it's just a lot of, on both sides, men and women, I think it's a lot of back and forth of what should be done, what shouldn't be done. I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that. Men are probably traveling overseas where women are going into their careers or going into their degrees to get, going into school to get more degrees. Like, we both have different ways of using this, I don't know how to say it, but using this thing to complain about how things are not working within our relationships. And we're using those two vices, throwing ourselves into our careers or into school or traveling abroad to find something better because the grass is probably greener in that space. I think we're doing this as a reaction to, I can't figure out this, I can't find a solution to this problem. And I think we're both at a head where it's just like, we want to figure it out. We don't have the tools because when we were brought up, we weren't properly, how do you say, we weren't properly taught how to do conflict resolution. We weren't taught how to actually value relationships. We weren't taught how to understand what it takes for a relationship or for a marriage to blossom and be successful. We have, in some cases, we have women who want a marriage, but they don't want to, they want a wedding, but they don't want a marriage. And I feel like we're all both just tired and we're just trying to figure out a solution. And I think that's the solution that some men have taken. I don't think every man is doing that. I think it's actually a small percent of men who are traveling overseas to do this. But I think that is a solution that more men are looking at and saying, because it's not new that men are going overseas to find women. Like, at one point, maybe like in the early 2000s, it was popular to go to Brazil. As a black man, it was popular to go to Brazil to find women, or go to like different countries, mostly like Latin countries, to find different women. And so I think we're still stuck in the mud of, how do we find a solution? Like, I'm not being heard, I'm not being heard, and now we're just like bumping heads trying to figure it out. And that is what I think is how we're trying to remedy the situation at hand.
That was pretty good. Anybody else wanted to add on to that? I was sitting there like, that sound right.
Ellie, you're
anybody, anybody
I was
else?
going to say, to Mistaken's point, she was saying how like the leading divorce rate is irreconcilable differences. And, when I think they just did like a poll, I think Mistaken, you said it maybe like, where like modern women are looking for, men that are emotionally intelligent and are good communicators. And so to Lauren's point, it's this disconnect in the community, where, you're looking for outside resources rather than really tackling the issue at hand.
Okay.
I was gonna say I had read something that said typically like what happened is back in the day when you got married, especially for women, well, when you got married, that the women were dependent upon the man for resources, right? So men that idea of being the provider was tied to resources in finance, finances and stuff like that. It was saying that what's become difficult with the shift is the fact that now, because that is not necessarily the reason why you need to get married, that the focus now has become the shift from that tangible money, finance resources, to a shift to emotional connection, that men are having difficulties with that because they are not necessarily have a wider emotional intelligence. And I'm not saying that they don't have any emotions, but knowing how to deal with the emotional nature of a woman and that leads to frustration, I think, more so on the woman's side, because they are now looking to them to be the sole provider in that area, and is causing like conflict. So I thought that that was very interesting in the fact that how that role shift from not just financial, because women are contributing to the financial aspect, but now we need to learn how to deal with each other emotionally. And that's where like a lot of the tension comes in. We don't know how to deal with not getting needs met in that area.
I agree with you. And I think also, I think to the point of what we were talking about before about how, millennials are not quickly getting or jumping into marriages. I think the reason why that's happening, and to your point, Ms. Taken, is that with our parents, they kind of taught us like, hey, before you get married, enjoy life, find, get a good career, get a good job, get a degree, get like, find stability, find financial stability. And I think at some point in our lives, we've been, shifting and moving through life, and that stability and that thing never came that our parents told us about. And so now we're looking like, and if you're in your 30s at this point, if you did things in your 20s, say you got married in your 20s and it didn't work out, now you're going through your own little crises that you're going through, right? But now you're looking around like, do I really want to get married? And I think a lot of millennials are just happy, and maybe not just millennials, but I think millennials are just happy being single together. And I think a lot of that is what is affecting us from being able to actually go into the whole marriage thing. Again, growing up in the household that I grew up in, you didn't get in grown folks' business. Like if grown folks are talking about stuff, you're not able to sit at the table and listen to it. And so we struggled because we didn't have a conversation about how marriages work. When you were looking at your parents, you're just visually looking at it. You're not actually getting like, hey, me and your father or me and your mother, we had an argument about this. Let me sit you down and talk to you about it if you ever experienced it. We weren't having those conversations. And so now our kids or us are out there just trying to figure it out. And they're just like, you know what? I don't want to put myself in this harm, because getting married and then getting divorced is hurtful, is traumatizing for all parties involved. And a lot of people are not willing to do that. Most people, I think, and going back to why men travel over there, I think men go over there just for the sake of having a peace of mind. Yes, they may go thinking that the women may not be this way or that way. Either way, they're going for the purpose and the anticipation of having peace. A lot of men, they're not bringing those women from there back to this country. They're actually staying over there and hoping that they can integrate into that culture through her. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's just ultimately I think we all just trying to figure it out, and we really don't have the answers yet. We just trying to figure it out the best way we know how to. I really think that.